tanks and then sealing vents to maintain pressure. Now at T-1 minute, Falcon 9 will be in startup, and stages 1 and 2 will begin pressurizing for launch.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Finally, we'll be awaiting the launch go pull from our launch director, confirming all systems are ready.
LD is go for launch.
And there we heard our launch director. Falcon 9 is go for launch, so let's sit back and listen in to the final countdown.
T-minus 3 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff of Falcon 9. Go, take it, go now.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
At T plus 30 seconds and counting, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Space Launch Complex 4E, and in just a moment we'll throttle the engines down in preparation for max Q, a period of maximum aerodynamic pressure. This is a critical moment during flight because the combined stresses
Telemetry nominal.
caused by Falcon 9 accelerating through the atmosphere and the ambient static pressure are at their greatest.
Falcon 9 is supersonic. Max Q.
The rocket has just passed through max Q, again where it experiences the greatest mechanical stress during flight. You can track our progress to orbit by watching
And
the
back chill.
left corner of your display showing first stage, velocity, and altitude. Now, we have several events coming up in quick succession, and we should hear these all called out by mission control, starting with main engine cutoff, or MECO, then stage separation, stage 1 flip, second engine start, and the start of boost back burn. Main engine cutoff is where we shut down all 9 Merlin 1D
Trajectory
engines
nominal.
on the first stage. Stage separation is when the first and second stages of Falcon 9 separate from one another. Stage 1 flip is when the booster uses its nitrogen gas thrusters to flip the booster around. And depending on the mission, it will perform a fast or slow flip. Today will be a fast flip, returning to the landing site on land. Second engine start will relight the MVAC engine, and a few seconds later, the boost back burn will begin as the booster heads towards landing zone at Vandenberg.
Main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition. Stage 1 boost back startup.
And there we heard the callouts for a successful main engine cutoff, stage separation, stage 1 flip, and second engine start 1, as well as the start of boost back burn. We're now waiting for fairing deployment on the second stage. Oh.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Great views here on your screen, and confirmation of fairing separation. Now the boost back burn is ongoing, and we expect shutdown shortly here.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
Both trajectories are nominal.
Great confirmation of boost back burn shutdown, which concludes the first of 3 burns that the first stage will perform on its way back to Vandenberg. You can see the MVAC engine still powering our second stage to its target orbit. Now, at T plus about 4 minutes into today's mission, the next major milestone coming up will be at the T plus 6 minute and 22 second mark, where you should see the first stage's entry burn on your screen. To start that entry burn, we will relight 3 of the M1D engines on the first stage, starting with the center engine, known as E9, followed shortly by E1 and E5. This is similar to pumping the brakes to slow the vehicle down as it passes back into Earth's atmosphere. We need to do this to slow down re-entry and reduce re-entry forces, which helps us recover and reuse the first stage. During that entry burn, Falcon 9 is decelerating by firing its Merlin engines, but the vehicle will still be moving really fast. This causes it to fly through Merlin's exhaust gases, also known as the rocket's plume.
Both trajectories remain nominal.
Now, this will deposit a layer of soot on the vehicle's surface, and that's why our flight-proven vehicles look the way they do. The soot comes from the carbon-based fuel that Falcon 9 uses. With each flight, it builds up a little bit more on the outside of the vehicle. Now, we're still over a minute away from the beginning of that entry burn. You can keep an eye on the first and second stage telemetry on the bottom of your screen. Second stage is still increasing speed and heading to its desired orbit. Reusability is key to lowering the cost of spaceflight, enabling more investments in critical space infrastructure. The Falcon 9 stage performing today's mission is performing this entry burn for the 27th time tonight. Now, this entry burn is slotted to last around 21 seconds, and again, we are slowing the vehicle down in preparation for final burn and landing.
Stage 1 entry burn startup. Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And there's the call out for entry burn shutdown, which is the completion of the Falcon 9 first stage entry burn. Coming up next will be the landing burn, which will start in less than 1 minute. Now, the Merlin engines on the Falcon first stage are optimized for sea level and achieve 190,000 pounds of thrust during ascent and descent. The landing burn will be the final burn of the Falcon 9 booster.
Stage 1 transonic.
And it's used to reduce the remaining speed of the vehicle for a gentle and precise landing.
Stage 1 and Stage 2 FTS have saved.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Landing burn has begun on the Falcon 9 first stage. This is the final burn the booster will perform before touching down.
Landing light deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And there you saw and heard the call out for successful landing of our Falcon 9 rocket. Again, this was the 27th launch and landing for this first stage. Now, coming up next, we'll be hearing a call out for second engine cutoff 1, or SECO 1, which will be the shutdown of the second stage MVAC engine. After that, we'll be looking for confirmation of good orbital insertion.
Stage 2 has entered terminal guidance.
Again, we are awaiting second engine cutoff and confirmation
MVAC shutdown.
of good orbital insertion.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And we have confirmation of nominal orbital insertion. Now, in less than 2 minutes, we should see our first payload deployments of the mission. The first payload is our primary payload for this mission, NAOS, and that will be followed by 2 payloads for Planet, Pelican 3 and Pelican 4. NAOS was developed by OHB Italia for Luxembourg Defense. The satellite is equipped with a state-of-the-art high-resolution optical camera, enabling detailed Earth imagery to support Luxembourg's institutional, environmental, and security applications. NAOS will provide high-definition images from low Earth orbit, allowing the Luxembourg government to obtain key satellite data for public administration, land monitoring, and national resilience objectives. Planet is a leading provider of daily data and insights around Earth and is launching 2 additional high-resolution AI-enabled Pelican satellites. Equipped with NVIDIA Jetson AI on board, these satellites will continue to expand Planet's capabilities to provide rapid, on-demand imagery to their customers across a range of industries, from defense and intelligence to agriculture and disaster response. Now, at this time, we are awaiting the first of the 3 deployments in this group, which will be our primary payload for today, NAOS. And this should be coming up shortly within the next.
Now separation confirmed.
Great confirmation of the NAOS separation and a beautiful view on screen.
Pelican 3, separation confirmed.
Pelican 4, separation confirmed.
Great confirmation of successful separation for the NAOS, Pelican 3, and Pelican 4 payloads. Now, our mission is not over yet. We have more payloads to deploy, but first, the second stage is embarking on a coast phase, and that will last about 40 minutes before the MVAC engine relights for a second time, also known as SES-2, and this will be at about T plus 53 minutes and 3 seconds. So we're going to take a pause and leave you with some space jams, and we'll see you back here just after T plus 50 minutes for second engine start 2. Welcome back to our live launch coverage of the NAOS mission. So far today, we had an on-time liftoff at 11:53 a.m. Pacific Time from Space Launch Complex 4E at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. We also had a successful first stage landing at Landing Zone 4. The second stage completed its first burn about 9.5 minutes after launch, placing the vehicle and spacecraft into the desired orbit. And we also saw our first payload deployments. Now coming up next, we are approaching the second burn of the MVAC engine on the second stage. This will be brief and it will last just about 3 seconds, so we're listening in for that call out in the next few minutes. Now, if you are just joining us, so far in today's mission, we have successfully deployed our first group of payloads. This includes NAOS, the National Advanced Optical System Satellite, on behalf of our customer OHB Italia. NAOS is a very high-resolution optical satellite system, which was developed by OHB Italia for Luxembourg's defense. We have also had successful deployments of planets Pelican 3 and Pelican 4 payloads. Now coming up in the remainder of today's mission will be 5 more deployments shortly after the T+1 hour mark. This will include EXO launches manifested Acadia 6 for Capella Space and Firefly 1, 2, and 3 for Pixel, as well as the LEAP 1 payload for Druva Space. Now we're expecting the second engine start to be within the next minute. And there you saw that second engine start too, just a brief burn, about 3 seconds. So with the second stage engine cutoff, we're going to take another quick break and we'll return for that third start of the second stage engine and our final payload deployments of the mission. We'll be back around the T+1 hour 5-minute mark, and we'll see you soon.
sat there, 25th century AD. We sat there and looked at the rockets from Mars, and you just boggled the mind and mind and mind and mind. And the technology caught up, didn't it?
back to our live launch coverage of the NAOS mission. Before the break, we saw the second stage MVAC engine relight for a second time, and we are now approaching the third burn to reach the orbit needed to deploy the next series of spacecraft. Now, similar to the second burn, this will also be brief, lasting about 3 seconds. We'll be expecting that call out within the next couple of minutes. If you're just joining us so far in today's mission, we did have an on-time liftoff at 11:53 a.m. Pacific time and a successful relanding of our first stage booster. We successfully deployed the NAOS payload on behalf of OHB Italia, as well as Planet's Pelican 3 and Pelican 4 payloads. Now we still have 5 more payload deployments coming up in quick succession, and those will be following the third burn of the MVAC engine. Now, although this third burn will be brief, keep an eye on the telemetry in the lower right-hand corner of your screen.
Good burn 3.
Now, with confirmation of the second engine cutoff 3, coming up next will be our final payload deployments of the mission. Again, we have 5 more deployments today, and those will begin in just about 2 minutes. The first payload to deploy in this final batch will be Acadia 6. ExoLaunch has manifested Acadia 6 for Capella Space, launching into sun-synchronous orbit. This satellite will expand Capella's Acadia series with enhanced imaging and revisit rates, strengthening global synthetic aperture radar coverage. The second to deploy will be Firefly 1. ExoLaunch has manifested this mission 3 Firefly payloads for its customer Pixel. Pixel is building a constellation of hyperspectral imaging satellites to create a health monitor for our planet. With 3 Fireflies already in orbit, today's 3 new additions will expand the constellation's reach, providing vital insights for agriculture, mining, environmental monitoring, and beyond. After Firefly 1, the next deployment will be Leap 1 for Druva Space. As part of Druva's launching expeditions for aspiring payloads, LEAP initiative, this hosted payload mission carries 2 Australian payloads to orbit, one demonstrating advanced edge computing in space, and the other deploying a next-generation hyperspectral imager for Earth observation. After the final 2 payloads to deploy, today will be Firefly 2 and Firefly 3, which ExoLaunch has manifested for its customer Pixel. Right now, we are standing by for the first deployment of this final batch, which again will be Acadia 6. We should be about 15 seconds or so away from that first deployment. Keep an eye on the view you have there on screen.
First Pixel Firefly deploy confirmed. Druva Space Leap 1, separation confirmed. Acadia 6, separation confirmed. Second Pixel Firefly, separation confirmed. Third Pixel Firefly, separation confirmed. We have confirmation of all payloads separations.
And there you heard it, confirmation of the deployment for Firefly 1, Leap 1, Acadia 6, Firefly 2, and Firefly 3. Now with these final deployments, we will bring our webcast to a close. Thank you to OHB Italia, ExoLaunch, Planet, and Druva Space for entrusting us with today's mission, as well as the range for their support. To stay up to date with all of our upcoming missions, be sure to check out spacex.com/launches for schedules and follow @SpaceX on X. We also recently rolled out a new departure board on the SpaceX website that features our upcoming launches, so be sure to check it out.